This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, from Philadelphia to Erie and from Pittsburgh to Scranton. It's Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenawalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Mara Donnelly. Hi, Mara.
Hello, Charlie.
Why, there's so much happening around the state of Pennsylvania and around
Yes.
the country now.
Yes.
I hardly even know where to start. We have a situation where it looks like all our leaders should be given a copy of Hiroshima to read.
Okay.
Maybe both the Democrats and the Republicans might like to read really what transpires in a nuclear exchange. Or maybe some of our leaders and our students should be given Anne Frank's story to read about the Jewish girl who hid from the Nazis in Amsterdam during the Second World War with her family. And lastly, maybe all of our students should be sent to the Holocaust Museum and be required to go through the Holocaust Museum. There's certainly lots of material and lots of issues that are swirling about right now that have the nation and our state embroiled in. Of course, this has affected higher education quite a bit, hasn't it?
It has. It sure has across the country.
And to talk about how it's affected higher education, we have one of the best experts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Ken Mash, the president of APSCUF, with us again. Ken, thank you very much for joining us. It's nice to have you back.
Charlie, Moore, it's great to be here.
Well, let me ask you just briefly before we start with our interview about the nation as a whole. How do you characterize, how do you explain what is going on at many of our college campuses right now in regard to Gaza and the Israeli question?
Yeah, I think it's a very complicated situation. There's, you always wind up with complicated situations when you have rights that come into conflict. On the one hand, the rights of people to express themselves and to protest. On the other hand, the rights of people to go about their business and do what they want to do. So it does get very complicated. But as far as like our universities, the state-owned universities in Pennsylvania, we really haven't had that occurring on our campuses. And so I think it's occurring more at certain kinds of schools than it is at small or regional colleges.
Well, that's good news for Pennsylvania. They haven't had to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ken, how would APSCUF like to see the upcoming state budget turning back to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Of course, this is a major importance to your organization, and are wondering what you would like to see with the upcoming state budget here in Harrisburg.
So recent data just came out. We're moving up. We're doing better as far as funding for public higher education in Pennsylvania.
What, we're not at the bottom anymore?
We're not at the bottom. We've managed to get all the way around 40.
That's great.
So that's an improvement from
That's
where
a testimony
we
to your
are.
leadership.
Oh, I'll take that. So we would like to, of course, continue that trend. And I think that we're in a fortunate position because I think that that there is bipartisan acknowledgement about the fact that what we're going to need in the future is an educated workforce. And we're just not going to be in a position to do that if it's not affordable. We're going to be rated by other states as far as college students. It's going to become more difficult for Pennsylvania to maintain its population if we keep having an exodus of people out of the Commonwealth. And of course, companies are going to be reluctant to invest in Pennsylvania if there is not a prepared workforce to be here.
We won't be able to attract any new business. That would be very difficult.
And of course, we're also facing shortages in teachers and nurses and social workers. So I think we're in a position right now where there is bipartisan recognition of that. So we last year the system received a 6.5% increase. I believe the chancellor is asking for a 6% increase this time around. Of course, we could talk about the governor's plan. The governor would like there to be a 15% increase.
Which one do you like better?
Shockingly, I prefer the 15% increase, and it's because it's really desperately needed. We have several universities which are still, and we've talked about this before, carrying debt, and so that money that should be spent to help students, to give them the services they need and the supports they need, is being instead moved to paying off the debt that exists because there were decisions made at a certain time to build residence halls and things of that
And
sort.
those universities are.
Well, certainly, if we're looking at Penn West, which is the consolidated university that used to be Cal and Edinburgh and Clarion, they're carrying a tremendous amount of debt. It's also true at Commonwealth, the other consolidated university, which is Mansfield and Lock Haven and Bloomsburg, and in particularly at Mansfield, where they do have a substantial amount of debt. But it's not just them; it's almost every university has some form of debt, and we're seeing even universities, being pressed more that for some time we weren't even worried about, like Millersville. Right now is facing a financial squeeze. It's not quite the same place as others, but nevertheless, they're feeling the need to really tighten their belts even more. And that's occurred after years and years of cuts and cuts and cuts and pulling back. So we need to get out of this cycle. We need to be affordable for our students. We need to increase enrollments. And it's very difficult when we're surrounded by states who have cheaper tuitions, or states like New York and New Jersey now, which are giving major grants. You can go pretty much for free to a SUNY school in New York. We have to do the kinds of things now so that we're competitive into the future.
So the good news is that the increase will be somewhere between 6% and 15%.
I hope.
Which should ultimately be higher than last year. So that's a good goal.
Yeah,
to get
well,
at.
it would be great. That's of course our target. We're waiting to hear what the two houses think that number should be.
Well, we touched on the governor. He not only does he want 15%, but he wants to overhaul the public system. Do we have any more detail on that? I know
Yeah.
we've talked about that in the past, right when he first announced it.
So I just want to emphasize again just how great it is to have a governor who's paying attention to public higher education to the degree that they are paying attention to public higher education. And if you look at what the goals that they have are, which is, to get funding where it should be, to increase enrollment, to make it easier for students to have pathways to their education, moving through community colleges to our state-owned universities, a scholarship program. I mean, these are all great things. And, the governor has given some details now to a little more details to his plan. The Republicans have responded, but I think even the Republicans would acknowledge that if it wasn't for the governor coming out with his plan, it's unlikely they would have been
They
as
wouldn't have put it on the
focused
table.
on
Yeah.
it as they are. So it's, I think the governor really deserves tremendous credit for putting this on his agenda. Now, about the governor's plan, the governor's plan is this 15% increase, but the 15% increase is related to putting the community colleges and our universities into a separate system. And then there's a performance funding aspect to what he wants to do as well. And as I said, a scholarship program. He has said that no student should have to pay more than $1,000 to go in. So there is some additional details. The legislation, as far as I know, today, as you're taping it, has not dropped yet.
Okay.
But I think we're anticipating it coming
Imminent.
very soon.
Oh, good.
Very, very soon.
That will help.
Yeah.
Has a
Yeah.
strategy been developed to attract new students, Ken?
You mean to attract new students from other states?
Yes,
Or
yes.
that? I think that this is what, the governor is focused on. I think that's what the Republicans in their plan are focused on too, is to try and make it affordable. And if it's affordable, then you're going to be attractive and competitive. So I think that there's actions being taken to do that. I think the system has rightfully focused on keeping costs down. So there's been an increase in state appropriations to the state system, but at the same time, it's like 5-6 years now, we have not increased tuition in the state system. So, there's a real effort there to try and, keep the costs under control, get some additional funding in order to be able to keep the costs down.
Well, Ken, if you spelled out some of the elements of the governor's plan, what are the elements, the basic building blocks of the Republican plan that's been put forth?
Yeah, so the Republicans have proposed, a new scholarship program, and adding money to an existing scholarship program, which is mostly aimed at attracting students and giving them scholarships for going into high-need areas, with kind of the promise that for every year that you would take it, you would have to remain in the Commonwealth. It's very similar, actually, to Governor Wolf's proposal that he had made, although it's more money even than Governor Wolf had suggested.
Did they
in his
define
Nellie
high
Bly.
need, or is it going to be defined as needed?
How's
that going to work?
I think they're leaving it to others to
Okay,
define,
okay.
what high need would ultimately mean, because that is a shifting thing. And,
Right.
if you spell out a particular area, you could, you can create oversupply too.
Well, if you
and-
solve it, you don't want to keep it on the list of high need, so.
Right, and we have
Interesting.
some concerns as a strategy about that too, because we think the liberal arts gets just completely underplayed, right? Like, because the evidence shows that over the long haul, if you get a degree in the liberal arts, that you may not make as much money coming out of college, but over the long term, you're going to end up making more money than you would otherwise make. And not only that, it prepares you for a multitude of different things.
You
But
learn to write.
the thing is with the liberal arts, and why it's hard both to explain to parents and legislators and the rest, is because there is no direct pathway. So you can major in political science, right? But that doesn't mean like you're getting a job as a political scientist or you're going into politics. You might very well wind up working at a bank, right? Or, lots of different, or in government, doing
Yeah.
various different things, because it's about the skills that you're getting, the ability to think critically, to write, and things like that are going to make it beneficial. I'd say also that I just saw recently the president of the AI company came out and said, like, the future, what's going to be needed to work with AI is not more computer scientists.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be people in the liberal arts, because they're the ones who are going to be able to, tell AI what it wants it to do in a very clear way, and be able to work with it too. So, I understand what, certainly we have a tremendous need for teachers in Pennsylvania. So certainly gearing towards certain professions can make sense, at least in the short term.
We don't have but an extra minute left here, Ken, but what's on the agenda for APSCUF in the near future after the budget's done?
Yeah, so, the governor has recommended a scholarship program. The Republicans have recommended a scholarship program. We're going to keep up the pressure still on the Pennsylvania Promise, which deals with, so many more students and making college really truly affordable, if not free. If you're below, $200,000 in combined income, you should be able to go for free. And we think it's the kind of thing that would really attract people to come to Pennsylvania, that would give people an advantage, and also would directly prepare Pennsylvania to be competitive into the future.
Okay, well, Ken, President of APSCUF, thank you very much. We can't wait to have you back again.